All right. There we go. Welcome. So I guess welcome everyone that is watching. Looks like we have it's 10 viewers, not that well, 18. That's not the worst. But welcome everyone to this week's Solana Changelog. This is where we go through some changes week by week, and then for this week I have a special guest here, Spaceman Dev. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, hello. Spaceman Dev. Name and profession is Dev. Been in Solana for quite a while, done a bunch of contributions. I'm also the host of OnionDAO, which is something we'll talk about in just a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like your name is perfect for you. All right, cool. So let's just go through the changes real quick. So first one that I kind of wanted to touch on is that in the simulate transaction request or the RPC request, the response will in the future give a itemized breakdown of the CU usage, specifically in regards to signature cost, write log cost, data bytes. So this is so that developers, whenever they are building on Solana, can have a little bit more knowledge of what their CU cost is actually going into, like what's the actual breakdown, rather than it just coming back and saying, giving you the total. This can help you as a developer kind of optimize your transactions.
So one thing that I'm interested in seeing now that this is available to me is going to be seeing the difference between zero copy and like regular account loading. Um,
Yeah, I know there is a difference in CU usage. It just depends on the size of the accounts, right?
well, if it gets deserialized or not, the point of zero copy is you don't have to deserialize it at all. So
Right.
there's a
Well,
there's a significant overhead there that you save.
okay. But don't you trade that off by like the heap usage versus the stack usage?
Yes, but I don't know. This would be great. Like this is a great amount of like information, and like now we'll be able to figure out what the CU exactly is for doing all of those operations, right?
Okay. Yeah, that's a totally a good use case. I didn't actually consider that. I know that Jonas on our team did a lot of stuff with zero copy and a bunch of different CU tests, and he found it generally it was better, but he did also find with larger accounts he ran out of heap space.
Yeah.
Very cool. And then in relation to this, they're going to add also what is this actual executed units and time. So this kind of gives you the information of like given a specific instruction, what was the units, compute usage units for that specific instruction, as well as the time taken on whatever execution time on the validator it took. This is actually, I didn't tell you this beforehand, but there is a consideration to, no, this is not a for sure thing, but there's a consideration to potentially get rid of CUs altogether and just go to execution time instead, and then say like if a transaction is not executed in X amount of time, then it's dropped. That's a huge change though. That's why it's just a consideration right now, but it is being discussed.
Is that a SIMD? Where would people read more about that discussion if they wanted to learn more?
There's not a SIMD yet. This is it's not gotten to a point where anybody is actually considering like
Yeah.
it's not a reality yet. So no one's created a discussion to like go make it a public discussion amongst a bunch of devs. But I expect, I mean, this is a speculation, but I expect that this is part of trying to figure out should we do that or should we not?
Gotcha.
Because they don't actually know the execution times at all for
Yeah,
any
yeah.
of these transactions.
Well, I also imagine that syscalls are like the where this gets like really iffy is when you start thinking about syscalls, right?
Mhm.
Because a syscall will take whatever operations. We're just able to, like, it'll take the same amount of time, regardless of what you do. But we're able to just mark it as low CU usage because we can do that. So
Right.
I don't know how they're going to support syscalls in execution time.
I think they're aren't they just trying to get rid of no, they're trying to get rid of precompiles completely. Uh, well,
What are
yeah.
they? What are they replacing them with?
They're trying to figure out a way to make it to where you can just do precompiles just normally within the code rather than giving you the precompile itself. Like for example, all the cryptography related, like SECP 256R1. Uh, if we had larger transaction sizes, I think it was 3x is what Dean said. He could do it with just normal program code.
Right, but it's not that you couldn't do it. It's that the CU cost was too high, right?
Yeah.
That's the other consideration. So like that's the whole point. Is like we could just mark the CU cost as not being high, but with execution time, it's like yes, you could do it in 3x transactions, but it'll still take that time.
Right. Okay. Well, I think in this case, this is why it hasn't been a published
I'm just curious,
discussion.
like I have no idea how they're going to deal with that, but
Yeah, I
very
think
interesting to see.
yeah, this is why I think there's like no like, hey, let's battle test this thing yet because they're just considering it. Like, is this a
Yeah.
real? Is this considered something that we can actually make a real thing? There's also the case that, and this was something that Brennan and Max have talked about, is making it to where you pay a lot more. So right now we just have like some global C usage for everything, right? Uh, they're considering also like a multi variable, different types of payments for different types of things rather than converting everything and playing the song. They consider playing the song and dance of converting those resources into what they consider a CU. But it's also I'm trying to I personally
I
don't
have
want that.
I have that's basically opcodes from EVM. There's a reason
Yeah.
we don't do opcodes from EVM, is so I don't have to do code golf in my code. If I have to start doing code golf in my code, I'm gonna cry.
Yeah, that's exactly why I'm trying to avoid that becoming a more than just a consideration, right? Because that just becomes like it moves the knapsack problem to the developers, and it's just
Yeah.
like good luck to your life. It's gonna suck.
If I have to write C code, I swear to God.
That's why we're doing Rust, right? That's why we're here.
Yeah. Like that was my biggest problem with writing Solidity is like Solidity is fine, and then you have to like do code golf and get into assembly
Yeah.
when you want to optimize. And I don't want to do that with my Solana programs.
Yeah, it's always interesting to compare the difference between like Rust development on Solana versus Solidity development. Like Solidity development is easier to started with, but become a senior Solidity developer, it's a lot harder than
Well, there's
learning
no
to
such
develop
thing as a
Solana.
senior Solidity developer. At a senior Solidity level, you're writing assembly. You're an
Yeah,
assembly developer. Congrats.
yeah, you convert it into an assembly developer. I bet Dean would also make the argument you convert to an assembly developer.
Right, like that.
Anyways, moving on to other changes. So for those that are looking at the 2.2 crates and beyond, they might have noticed that the big Solana SDK crate got converted into a ton of little like they're considered component crates. It's just a ton of different crates. I think it went from one to like 60 crates or something crazy. Um, this is so that build times will be faster for most smart contract or program devs, and also you don't have to worry about Semver as much because they're such being that they're such smaller component crates, they can make changes to them that are they can actually follow Semver versus making everything as one, which is a lot nicer because otherwise you would have like Solana SDK out in version like 46 already because they've made so many break-in changes on it. So I'm looking forward to that one. I'm looking forward
Yeah.
to actually using this in Anchor because Kevin Heavy, I think he did an example with Anchor at some point, and he got like 16 times faster build times, which we're not in 2.2 yet, but once we are, I'm super excited to have it.
I like my longer build times. It allows me to take a break, stretch, get some water. Otherwise, I'm just looking at code all day.
Yeah, you're like the old
Controversial
style
take.
devs. The old style devs. Like what is it? The XKCD? My code is compiling while they're
Yeah,
still coding.
yeah. Gives me time to stretch. It's good for you. I will say, the thing that we talked about in Anchor with like Solana versions or just Anchor versions and stuff, being able to pull an IDL only crate or like a crate only implementation that does not rely on versions. If you remember that conversation,
Right. Can you not do
instead
this today?
you can, but you would have to download the source code and put it in your project.
Couldn't you do this with what require program or something? What's it called?
Right, right. But the conversation we were having was require program requires it to be in that folder. It requires
Yeah.
the thing that
Okay.
you're
Got it. Okay.
right versus like being able to put a GitHub link, and then
Yeah.
just like you would do a Rust dependency. I think that would be a really big DevX change.
We should change that for like in the Anchor TOML. It should be able to support that, right?
Yeah, like require
Or
program is great. I want require program to work without me needing to put the other program in my project folder.
right. It would be really cool as well to like an Anchor TOML because we have program metadata, right? Just give a program ID and it will go pull the IDL that's potentially on chain and then just use that on your project automatically.
JIT cloning for IDLs and programs. We love
Yeah,
it.
I want that for V1. Okay. I think, yeah, I got to do another one of these with just like VM1 changes. That's probably going to be next week, but
Yeah.
there's so many things that are a consideration for V1 and then V2 for Anchor is just, it's a lot of work, but it's going to be really cool. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. The other one that I want to talk about a little bit is the Loader V4. So this is SIMD 167, which it seems like there's nobody against, but it is not pulled in yet. It's still in review. But what this is basically they're looking at a new loader. We're currently using the Loader V3 for all programs on Solana. They're looking at how can I improve the runtime dramatically, and they're doing this with Loader V4. These are things with like I think they're like changing opcodes in the hood. So you can see a bunch of different enum changes. It gets really into the weeds with BPF, etc. But in that V3 at some point will probably be removed entirely. So I'm thinking a year plus from now. Uh, with this Loader V4, there's going to be a upgrade instruction for migration from V3 to V4 so that you can move your programs from V3 to V4 to get all those optimizations on the stack, heap, etc. And you don't have to worry about that. So that is also this commit right here is just adding that migration instruction.
So one thing you mentioned is, program runtime V2 is not a thing anymore, and its components are being is things like loader V4. The thing that I was very much looking forward to in program runtime V2, and I don't know if that's slated for anything, is that CPI limit increase.
This is when you say the limit increase, which one?
So CPI currently there's a CPI depth limit of 4.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that exists is because you're cloning the VM every time you CPI.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that Runtime V2 wanted to do was instead of taking the but does this change? Does this just arbitrarily increase the amount of CPI depth limit, or does it do it in the way Program Runtime V2 was going to do it, which is we don't do the VM garbage anymore.
So
like new VM for every call.
So Runtime V2 was kind of broken up into multiple different components, and some were taken, some were not. This is one that's taken, but this is the requirement for this to go live is direct mapping. Direct mapping is also a part of, or would have been a part of Runtime V2, and that removes all the VM garbage for CPI.
Okay.
So the core engineers, they did not want to do the weird VM garbage. And for those that might be watching, the VM garbage is that when you do a CPI, it did like a memory copy of the program at the time, the whole copy. And then every time you did a nested one, it would copy even more. And you would just have a whole bunch of stuff loaded on the on the program runtime. It would just be hell basically for anything. It really not a good architecture. So direct mapping allows it to where you don't have to do that because I think it's like you directly map from your CPI, what you're CPIing or the address to the actual account is my understanding. I wrote down like a whole thing of what it is at somewhere, but we'll get into that another time. But direct mapping is a requirement for this CPI nesting limit increase. It's a requirement for direct mapping to go live before a lot of these limit increases. So CPI, I believe also there's like the what is it, the restrictions on the number of accounts that can be written in a single transaction is requiring direct mapping. There's quite a few different changes that require direct mapping first, and they're all components of what would have been runtime v2.
Gotcha. And what is the timeline on direct mapping? Is that next 6 months, 12 months?
It was supposed to be this month.
Oh, okay.
It's been moved to probably September-ish.
That's still way faster than I was expecting. So,
I mean,
I'll take it.
direct mapping has been under development and almost released for I think 3 years now. So it's been a long time coming. I believe there's which one is the SIMD for direct mapping? I don't believe it's actually called direct mapping as the SIMD. It's like one of these. Is it just a runtime AVI v2? I don't remember which one it's called, but it was some name something different. But they're still, I guess if it is this one, they still haven't reviewed it. But ultimately, I know it has been implemented both on Agave as well as FireDancer. They're just finishing some things up. And also on my side, on the DevRel side, once it gets finalized on the implementation side, there are some breaking changes that happen on the program side that I am kind of being watchful and mindful of, like, hey, what programs might be broken by direct mapping, and personally trying to figure out how I can reach out and make sure those problems never go live when direct mapping goes live.
Personally, I'm very excited for that CPI limit increase because going from 4 to 8, that's not just a CPI limit increase. That is a foundational architectural difference.
Yes. It's
Like that's going to allow for so many cool things that I've wanted to build on Solana and I just haven't been able to.
Yeah, it's this one. It's like the write locks, if I remember correctly, increasing write locks from 64 to 128 in a single transaction, so you can do more as well. And then there's a few other ones. I think there's some other constraints on CPIs that they're also re- releasing. I think it's like the instruction limit on a single CPI. And I think that was it, if I remember correctly. So yeah, CPI limit increase, dramatic. I'm really excited for it because
Yeah.
also with smart contract wallets, right? It kind of requires a higher CPI to do any of
Yeah.
that.
I mean, I've been wanting to build things like the Diamond Standard from EVM and a couple of things for like the ECS stuff that Magic Block has been doing. Would love to have that in native Solana, but you
What
can't.
what's the diamond standard? I don't actually know.
So Diamond Standard is basically how Solana works, but on EVM. And the way it works is so normally in EVM you have your executable code and your data living in the same contract. In Solana, you separate out the executable code and your data, right?
Mhm.
The Diamond Standard says you have executable code and then you have a separate contract for actually storing the data. So you deploy two contracts, one that stores the data. These are called facets. You can have like a different like table per contract and whatever. And then your executable code lives in separate contracts. So it's a pattern that basically emulates Solana style stuff. But one of the things that allows you that you need to do things like that is you can have a contract that owns data, and then the modifiers for that data can be multiple different executable code bases. Why is that important? Because right now, one of the challenges with Solana DevRel is if I have a program that owns data, only its executable code can make changes to that data. Right?
Right.
Like I can't make changes to that data from a different executable file.
Yes, you have to make, like, there has to be some kind of like CPI you can do in order to do that, right?
Yep. So this would allow, like, if you have CPI limit increase, the data will sit alongside an API for modifying that data, but actual executable modules can be anywhere and can be very different, and that changes the game on how you can manage and modify data and do interesting things, like being able to take away data control from needing to be bundled with executable code. Really powerful.
Right. I completely agree with you. Also, in the case of like So whenever you do contract migrations, right? So say you have from like Mango did this from V3 to, or so Radium did this from V2 to V3. They basically had everybody do an instruction call to migrate the account's state from V2 to V3 on the UI, which is not fun. It's bad user experience. But if they were able to store this separately to where a separate contract was managing the state, they, or I guess, had ownership of the state, it would have been easier to, I guess, migrate, and the user wouldn't even have noticed, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I wonder how much extra cost that would be CU usage, because every single call would be more CU, right? I
Not
wonder,
necessarily. Read data, most of it is going to be read data, which is not going to increase CU usage. The only time you're increasing CU usage is write data because you're adding a CPI on there.
right, but you load it. I guess it doesn't matter because it's the same size account
Yeah.
loaded. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Reads would stay constant. It's just on writes you have an extra CPI.
Got it. That's
But with
very
direct
cool.
mapping, the CU usage of the CPIs goes down anyway.
Yeah, and you're fine with it, especially if you use like the CPI from Pinocchio or something, and
Yeah.
along with direct mapping. That's cool. Okay.
That's what I've been like the most excited for in Solana. Like I've just been waiting for a long time because that changes the way I can build programs on Solana.
Right. Do you know how the limitation? So do you know how the limitation for 4 came about?
Because of just the heap usage, right? Like,
No, there's no like actual reason. So,
okay.
so the lore, and this is actually something I learned like in 2022, is that the lore is that Armani told me is that when he was building Serum, Trent asked him how high do you think the CPI limit should be, and Armani was like, I think 4 is good enough, and and that's how we got to 4.
Good Lord.
It just happened to be, what is it? Trent always says the wrong decisions are always are the right decisions or something. So
Yeah.
at least at the time.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So the last thing we wanted to talk about is OnionDAO, and I wanted to, whoa, what's happening here?
You got to click it. It's an onion.
It's an onion.
There you go.
Really?
Randomly, onions will come out of the screen towards you. It's a thing. Okay. The more onions you click, the higher the number goes of the onions you've clicked.
Wait,
It's an
really?
Easter egg. Yeah. You'll see it there. Click
Oh, there
it.
you go.
Some are quick,
It just
but if you
happened to
see
be
another one pop up, just click it,
it just
and
happened to
you'll.
be a massive onion. Okay. All right, I'll let you talk about OnionDAO.
Yeah. So first of all, before anyone yells at me, OnionDAO is called OnionDAO because the word Chicago means place of wild onion. That's where the lore comes from. It's a deep cut. It's a historical fact. I think it's one of my favorite facts about Chicago. That's why OnionDAO. Okay. So what is OnionDAO? If you're familiar with Mountain DAO, OnionDAO is a 4-week long pop up co working space. So we have this great big 18,000 square foot office right in the middle of the loop. You can go on our Twitter, see pictures of it. It's this amazing place. And then the way it's 24/7 access. We have monitors, we have a basketball court, ping pong table, poker table. Basically, the whole point of Onion DAO and Mountain DAO and events like it are you take the Solana teams, people who are working in the ecosystem, and even people not within Solana, like just tech adjacent folks. You bring them into a much more sustainable style of event than a conference. So I've been in crypto since 2013. I've gone to a lot of conferences. One of the things that I don't like about conferences is that you'll shake someone's hand, you'll talk to them for 30 minutes, and then maybe it'll be another 6 months before you see them again at another conference. But with that 4-week long co-working space, you're working with them alongside. It's a lot more casual. It's a lot more what do you call sustainable relationship building than you would get in a conference style setting, right? Most of the time there aren't workshops. Most of the time there isn't programming. Most of the time it's really just social organic interaction. So you're walking around and talking to each other. Now, in the fun side, we also do a lot of social events. So in the evenings and the weekends, we have social events planned like kayaks in the river, paintballing, skydiving, urban farming, music production classes, all sorts of fun things. Basically, again, as a way to get people to get to know each other, and do the equivalent of touching grass, but with a lot of a variety of different social activities. But yeah, one thing that you will not see at OnionDAO, if I have my way, is any happy hours. That's a promise.
At least none that are organized.
None that are official. you know.
Understood. Yeah, I think the way that Onion DAO is set up is really the future for any type of developer event, and it's how I personally wish all the hacker houses were, so that people could actually hack together, work together, and kind of, I guess, become more of a community of developers rather than a bunch of developers. Hi, how are you doing? Good job. I love what you do. Bye. Like
Yeah.
run into a lot of the conferences.
Yeah, I mean, some of my favorite memories of Mountain DAO are like 2 a.m. and we're playing board games, or like everyone's burnt out, or everyone that's at the night shift is burnt out from just staying awake, but we're chatting about Solana or like some deep technical issue at 2 to 3 a.m. And those kinds of relationships, those kinds of memories are just kind of priceless.
Yeah, those are my favorite parts of Mountain DAO too. I've been to, I think you've been to almost every Mountain DAO, haven't you?
Everyone except for the first one.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So this is the first of hopefully many Onion DAOs.
That's the hope. I do have, if OnionDAO goes well, I have ambitions to take it to London and Amsterdam as well, because I have big communities there that I work with, and take it on the road. But we'll probably, wherever, like OnionDAO will be the one I host, and if it goes well, we can take this thing. I have people in other cities that have been asking, "Hey, I want to do something like this in my city." Help them get it set up, and get these kinds of events going around the world.
Yeah, that would be fun. Like, I guess, when would you, I know you said ambition, when would you want to do those?
It depends, city by city, right? Like like if you were to do something in Dubai, you wouldn't want to do it in the summer.
Right.
So it depends city by city. It depends. Someone told me the saying, which was a DAO a month keeps the keeps the code working, keeps the code compiling.
That'd be awesome.
So I don't know how much we can make that happen, or what kind of things we can set up. That might be burning out too many developers, but I think it's also useful. Not everyone can come to everything, right? But like if you give them different opportunities around the world. I know, for example, Singapore is a great developer hub. Would love to do something there. And them flying to OnionDAO is just like not realistic necessarily, even though we would love to have them. Stuff like that. So I want to build more developer events around the world. That's kind of my ambition.
That'd be awesome. So I guess, how do developers get into OnionDAO?
It's very simple. You just go to the website and you click apply. Now, I cannot stress this enough. Please, please, please apply. You will get accepted. That's not a concern. But if you don't apply, I can't put your name in for building security. And then you're going to be sitting outside enjoying the lovely Chicago weather and not able to come into the co-working space. So the sign-up process is like 30 seconds. You can do it on your phone. You can do it right now while you're listening. Go to oniondao.dev, click apply, 30 seconds. That way I have your name for building security. That's all I need. Please, 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 please fill out that form. Do not message me on June 16th or whenever you show up and be like, Dev, can I please get it? I will be like, no.
I think I've done this to you before. Yeah, I guess I definitely have been guilty of not applying.
It takes 30 seconds. You can do, it's a shorter form than even Mountain DAOs. Like I tried to keep it as quick as I can.
That's awesome. Okay, cool. So OnionDAO, when is it running? I guess I can.
June 16th to July 11th. So we were originally going to do just the month of June, but we wanted to do July 4th weekend because we might be able to do yachts on the lake. I'm negotiating that right now. For like fireworks and yachts, which might be a fun time. But June 16th to July 11th, 4 weeks long. And then we have a bunch of, each week we're trying to do interesting things. For example, week 2 is going to be University Week. We're going to bring a bunch of students, university students, whether those are Chicago students, whether they are from the Midwest or all over the United States or wherever they want to fly in from. See? Thank you, Ludo. Very easy. Very easy.
Very easy to apply.
Very easy to apply. But yeah, University Week. We might do a mini hackathon during University Week. We might do a hackathon every week. We're still kind of figuring out the exact logistics there. Week 4 I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about this yet, but if you might want to keep track of Chase Barker's Twitter account for week 4, and I'll leave it at
This is
that.
way too much information.
Yeah, but we'll have more information coming out very soon. And then I have some things that I'm working on for week 1 and 3, but those are not confirmed yet, so we're still
Okay.
working on those.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be there for University Week to help out with the students, and I know a few other people, at least on my team, will be there as well. We'll probably be dispersed amongst multiple weeks, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, come for all 4 weeks. It's a great time.
Yeah,
Or come whenever you want.
these are the best events. I always tell, especially my team, I'm like, hey, if you want to go talk to the best developers in the world, like go to this specific event because, and especially as much time as you want, because that's where you can talk to the best developers on Solana, realize like how their journey was and how do they make it, and also just like have fun, like be part of the community.
One of the things that I'm really excited for this OnionDAO is one of the mandates that we got from you and Foundation was try to bring more developers that are not necessarily Solana developers into the ecosystem. And we have a ton of signups from a lot of local Chicago communities that are not crypto. So we have like Coding Coffee and other places that I've personally just been going to those events and chilling OnionDAO. And the first question is like, "What do you mean this is all free?" And I'm like, "Yeah. Don't worry about that part. Just show up, have a good time, learn some code, and we'll sneak them into the community."
That's awesome. Yeah, I think especially this year, we're kind of in a perfect storm scenario to where the tech job market is not that great in general, but Solana job market is pretty great right now.
Yeah.
And so I'm especially me, myself, and the DevRel team, one of our hopes is for OnionDAO is to help onboard a lot of these developers outside of crypto onto Solana and just showcase some of the really cool stuff that we can build in that. Hey, there's some really good devs in this community.
Yeah.
Probably some of the best in the world. So just bring them in and have a good time.
Yeah, and we have over 130 desks. We have like conference rooms. We have 2 kitchens. Like it's a great office. It's objectively a great office.
I want to fill that whole thing. I want to
Yeah.
get everything.
Like bring your moms. Like we'll teach them about Solana. We have Greed Academy doing intros to Solana
That's
every
awesome.
week. Every week they're going to be doing for beginners their first transaction and a bunch of learning stuff. Again, all of that is coming out next week. We're going to do more information on that. But if you're listening to this, a little bit of alpha drop. Bring your moms. It actually is a good opportunity for you to onboard people that might not already be on crypto.
Very cool. Well, thank you, Dev, for joining us today on the space, on the, I guess, not space, the Solana changelog, especially with all the questions. I feel like I should bring you more often on this thing. And I'm really looking forward to OnionDAO. Like, I am definitely going to be there. I will figure out, even if like if something happens the second week, I will be there another week.
It'll be a good time. I will make sure it's a good time. Like that is I love Mountain Dow, and I was like, why can't we do this in my favorite city? Like, not that I don't love Salt Lake. Salt Lake is a great city, all blah 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 blah. But why can't we do this in my favorite city? And to have the opportunity to be able to do that, to showcase Solana in the place that I love dearly, that's a privilege that I'm not going to.
Thanks everyone for watching. Definitely apply for OnionDAO. Just go to was it oniondao.dev, right?
OnionDAO.dev.
Hit that apply button and go to it. And I hope to see y'all, 1 at Accelerate in a couple weeks, and then 2 at OnionDAO. All right. Thank you, everyone.